What do you call it when a dinosaur crashes its car? Tyrannosaurus Rex. Alright, so today we're starting a new unit. As you can see, it's called Synthesize While Listening. You can find it here on my homepage, so just click right there. The learning goal for this activity, basically we are learning to use what we already know, plus what we didn't know, to reach a new understanding of something we listened to. This is a strategy called synthesizing, and it helps show our understanding more clearly. So basically you've most likely heard of this strategy in one of your reading units. This time though, you're going to do a similar thing, synthesize, but do it while you're listening. Basically when you synthesize, you ask yourself these two questions. How has my thinking changed? And what do I understand now that I didn't understand before? So, in your textbook, this unit is introduced here on page 36. Synthesize. Follow these instructions to synthesize while you listen. And there's an example here as well. Okay? Make connections while you listen. Connections to personal knowledge and experience can help you make sense of what you are hearing. So for example, when the reporter says 1 in 4 students is bullied, you might think of the students you know who have been bullied before. Another strategy while synthesizing is to compare. Compare what you are hearing with what you already know. Assess whether the information is important, true, or consistent with what you already know. So, for example, when she says cyberbullying is on the rise in local schools, you might compare this information with what you know is happening at your local school and realize, yeah, that's true. The next thing to do is to contrast. Contrast what you are hearing with what you already know. Assess the information that is new, that challenges what you believe to be true. A focus on differences helps you learn new information and form new opinions. So for example, when she says, there seem to be no solutions, you might contrast that information with what you know your school is doing and think, no, there are solutions. So contrast means to think about what is different, okay? Compare things that are similar and make connections to things you already know. I've summarized this for you here. Connect, compare, contrast, and synthesize. So connect. Write down any similar experiences you have had connected to the topic. Compare. Write down what you already know about the topic. Then write down what you learned about the topic, or what you think is different about the topic. Synthesize. Write down everything that you now understand about the topic. Okay? And so I'm going to do an example here for you. Imagine you were listening to a report about cyberbullying. This is how you might synthesize that text. First, as you're listening, take what are called jot notes. Okay? So jot notes are basically just little notes you take off at the side. They don't have to be full sentences. They can just be point form. They can be really messy. They don't have to be straight. They just have to be quick, scratchy notes. Okay? So, for example, when I hear the reporter say 1 in 4 students is bullied, all right, right here, 1 in 4 students is bullied, I think of students I know who have been bullied. So on my jot notes, I would write, I might write something like, I know, or I think about students who are bullied. In my school. Okay? As a result, a school counselor named Mako-chan came to my class and taught us how to prevent cyberbullying. So all of this is going on inside my head. All right? Or I'm writing it down as I listen. Oh yeah, I remember Mako-chan. This guy, you guys may or may not remember him, but there's a guy that came to the school and he delivered this lesson about how to prevent cyberbullying about a year or two ago. and this is 2015. So I'm going to make little quick notes over here that connect what I'm hearing, this reporter say 1 in 4 students is bullied, to what I already know, okay, are things that, connections that I can make, all right? So the next thing to do then is to compare, all right? So look up here. We write down any similar experiences you've had and connected to the topic. Well, I think about students in my school who are being bullied, and I know this guy named Mako-chan came to our school right here. Okay, so I make these little jot notes at the side. Next, you're going to write down what you already know about the topic. So, for example, when she, the reporter, said cyberbullying is on the rise in local schools. Remember, she said that right here. Cyberbullying is on the rise in local schools. As I listened to her say that, I compared that information with what is going on in my school and realized, yes, that's true. I already know cyberbullying is on the rise. So in my jot notes, I might say something like, in my compare notes, I would say, yeah, that's true. I know some cases of cyberbullying. Or just, if you want to make it real quick, I know cases. All right? So those are compare notes. Contrast notes. Okay, you're going to write about things that are different or things that you're learning as you're listening to this topic being talked about. All right? When she says, there seem to be no solutions. Well, check this out. There seem to be no solutions. I contrast that with information with what we did in my class with Mako-chan and think, no, there are solutions. I learned there are solutions to cyberbullying. I remember when I listened to this man give his lesson, I can contrast, no, there are solutions. Okay? Mako-chan gave my class many possible solutions. All right? So I'm going to write that down. What I need to do then is put it all together. Now I understand that although it may seem hopeless, in fact, there are real solutions to cyberbullying. And so this is the real artistic part of it. Okay? You need to be able to put your jot notes or your connect notes, your compare notes, and your contrast notes together into a paragraph. Okay? And your paragraph should look like this. The news report, Cyberbullying, Are There Solutions by Ivana Hagankis, discusses cyberbullying. For example, it talks about how it is on the rise and that there seems to be no solution. I already knew that cyberbullying is on the rise because of what happened in my class before. However, I learned there are solutions to cyberbullying because of what our school counselor taught my class. Now I understand that although it may seem hopeless, in fact, there are real solutions to cyberbullying. And if I were to write even more information, I might give examples of those possible solutions, okay? But for now, I'm interested in this style, okay? So let's break that down a little bit. All right, so the first thing we have here in synthesizing okay, as you can see, is you have the title of the text. So in this case, it was a news report, and this is the title, okay, and then the author. The author, okay, and then you mentioned something about what it was talking about, the author, and then you need to talk about the topic. So you would say something like, it discusses or discusses dot dot dot. Okay, you can see that right here. Right here. And then you're going to give an example. For example, dot dot dot. Okay. It talks about how it is on the rise and there seems to be no solution. So you give an example of what it talks about. The next thing you're going to say is, I already knew. So you're making notes about, or you're writing about what you already knew. Okay? You're going to write in here something you already knew. I already knew cyberbullying is on the rise. Okay, your compare notes here. I already knew. And then you write an example of what you already knew. I'll go down here a bit more. There we go. Okay, and then you're going to say your connection. Okay, I already knew something, 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 and then you make your connection because of dot, dot, dot. This is your connection. You can see that written in blue here. Okay, then you're going to introduce something that you learned. So then the next thing you write is, however, dot, 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 I learned. Okay, you can write this any way you like, but I realized, I learned. Okay, and then you write what you learned. Okay, the new learning, the contrast information. All right, and again here I've just put in some example of what I connected to. Okay, I learned there are solutions to cyberbullying because of what our school counselor taught in my class before. Okay, this is a connection I made. The next thing you're going to write is your understanding. So this is your synthesis. Now I understand something, something. So you have to write about your new understanding as a result of what you've listened to. Your comparison and your connections and your contrast go together to come to new understanding. So I now understand that although it may seem hopeless, in fact there are real solutions to cyberbullying. Okay, so this is the way we made connections and thought about all these things when listening. Okay, or the way we made connections and thought about all these things when listening is an example of synthesizing, which is a way to improve your understanding of what you hear or read. Okay, so I'd like you to follow this formula. Consider it like a mathematical formula. You can copy this style right here if you like. I tried to make it, easier for you to see here. But in your synthesizing paragraphs, I would like this format. Okay. Here's another example. You can read. Just slightly different wording. Okay. So next, what you're going to do is this practice activity. So use what you've learned in the video so far to complete all of these things here. Okay. You're going to listen to a recording of a podcast that I read. Okay, and I would like you to answer those questions as you listen. Okay, and then when you're finished, you're going to write a paragraph, a synthesizing paragraph, and I'd like you to enter it in this shared document. Okay, you enter your name in here, and then your paragraph goes in here. Okay, if you have any questions, please let me know. Good luck.